Hi everyone, it's Julie, the Paper Bag Lady 1, and today I want to show you a junk journal that I made for my friend Holly. We are having a one-on-one swap, a junk journal swap, and it would be an awful lot of pictures if I took pictures of it, so I decided I would do a video instead. So, here we go. I have never made a junk journal before. I have never used one. I did not really watch a lot of tutorials. I just decided to sort of wing it and do whatever I felt like doing. So, I'm assuming there's no right and no wrong when it comes to art, so here we go. First of all, for the cover, I took apart an old book that was called The New Century Book of Facts. I thought that all the scroll work and design on the cover was really, really pretty. And actually I got the idea from Holly, who said she might use a book for the covers as well. So I used that cover, and here I have printed out an H. It came from a CD I have called, I think it's Victorian Letters. I'm not sure, it's just a whole CD full of different letters in different fonts, but I thought that was a pretty one. So I printed out the H, and then I used some platinum stickles, and then I misted the whole thing over with, I believe it was cream de cocoa glimmer mist. I used an old handle here that I found at an antique mall, and I just attached it with brads. And then for the binding, I don't have a fancy binding machine like a cinch or a bind it all, so I just used my paper drill and drilled holes and then used book rings. And then, excuse me, for the binding here I used a seam binding. It's a chocolate seam binding, which you can actually find in my Etsy store. It's the Paper Bag Lady. I have about 50 different colors of seam bindings and some other trims too, but this is the chocolate seam binding. No, I'm sorry, I think it's just the regular brown. At any rate, it's the seam binding. And what I did was wound the seam binding in and around all of the book rings to try to keep the little hinge part that's fatter from constantly turning around and going into the book and getting caught on all the papers. So I'm not sure how successful it will be if the book is used a lot, but for the time being it seems to be holding its own. So there's the cover. Inside, I covered the inside of the page with paper from Die Cuts with a View Old World stack, and then I used this corner stamp at the bottom and the top. And I believe the stamp is made by Limited Edition, and I think most of the stamps that I used in this journal are from the same company. This is the binding, part of the binding of the book that I used for the covers, the New Century Book of Facts. And then I just stamped this tag, which I coffee dyed, with another stamp from Limited Edition. This is a file tab that I again coffee dyed, and then I used some seam binding also from my Etsy, and I believe that is the Dusty Peach color. An old bingo card, a paper bag, which you can slide things in, some plain craft cardstock. This is some handmade paper that my husband made in college in a paper making class. And then I just misted it with some coffee shop glimmer mist. This little folder is from a game, I believe it was called Lotto, but I covered it. It looks like a big ticket to me. I covered it. There is a, I'm not sure how well you can see it, there's a little hole there, so if something wanted to show through it could. And again, 2 coffee dyed tags stuck in there. This is a page from a teacher's ledger book, I guess, where they would grade and keep track of everything that was happening during the week. I remember my mom using these when she was a math teacher. Here we have a little envelope, again with a coffee dyed tag in it. And here is a journaling ticket, which I made. Again, it's coffee dyed. I stamped it here with a journaling spot. It's an autumn leaves stamp. The numbers came from a very tiny little stamp set, which I cannot remember the name of. And the dress is from an old Inka Dinka Doo stamp set. A clear, I believe probably one of, I think it was called a clear on clear stamp set. And then the admit one is something I actually had made. I printed it out in the font that I wanted and took it to my local scrapbook store, and they had that stamp made for me. So there's that. Another tag, glimmer misted, coffee dyed, and stamped. Another file tab, that's with the light green, no, the mint green seam binding. These are old seamstress tags, I believe. Those you can also find in my Etsy shop. And this is a folder that they would put pictures in back in the day, I suppose. The picture would go here, but I actually just stuck a bit of handmade paper that I did in there. The folds were ripping, so I used some Tim Holtz decorative tape to hold that together. Another coffee dyed tag stamped. There's a page from an old green stamp book. I loved the green stamps when I was a kid. I remember my mom getting them at the grocery store. These are 4-inch coasters that my friend Cody sent to me. Thank you, Cody. She had started them for a project and then never finished it, so she sent them to me. So I put those in here. And these are the little coin roll wrappers that you would put your quarters in before you took them to the bank. So I coffee dyed those and I made little tiny tags for inside them. And because these flopped around when they were just loose, I adhered them to an old ruler that I got at a thrift shop. There's another paper bag. Some more craft cardstock. This is a book of recipes of Pennsylvania Dutch recipes. I have a bunch of these and I never really knew what to do with them, but I thought it would work very well in this because when you open it up, the recipes fold out, but the backs are all blank. So you have all those spaces to journal and create and put photos. Another file tab with some light blue seam binding, another bingo card, another stamped coffee dyed tag. This is a piece of a Scrabble board. I actually cut it up to make a different album with, and I had some pieces left over. I coffee dyed them, and I thought that would be something fun in here, and I used the Scrabble tiles as well. I probably have about 8 sets of Scrabble tiles. They are great fun to use. Another tab with some pink seam binding, more seamstress tags, another piece of paper that I made. This is a piece of burlap. I thought that'd be something fun and different to adhere things to. I made some different stick pins, so Holly can use the stick pins to attach things to it. There's an old file tab on the end. And on the back there are a couple pieces of canvas. I adhered it all to a thin strip of chipboard just to keep the material from fraying when I punched the holes in it. This is a coffee sleeve that was sprayed with glimmer mist and stamped. And then some old coffee dyed tags, and again another one of those tickets that I made in there. Another little photo holder. This one I left blank and she could slide something down into that. There's a little index card tab with an H for Holly. Oops, there's a glare. There it is. More craft cardstock. Some envelopes that I coffee dyed with a tag inside, and these are actually from the spine of the book that I used for the covers. Those were so pretty, I thought I just had to put them in here somehow. Another file tab, another piece of handmade paper by my husband. And oops, didn't put those in there. This is actually a pocket on the last page. Hard to do this one-handed. Sorry, I don't have a tripod for my camera. At any rate, that is a pocket, and those will stick in there. And this zipper actually does work. Again, not sure how well I can do it one-handed, but the zipper does open and close and creates a little pocket. And those little journaling tickets will slide in there. So, that is my junk journal, art journal, whatever you want to call it, that I did for Holly. I hope that she loves it. I had a fantastic time making it. I hope she has just as good a time filling it. Thank you everyone for watching, and have a great day.